like I want to give a slight advantage to Savjz.
Yeah, I actually have a bit of insight on why Savjz wanted to bring Warrior to this lineup, and I feel like most people think that Hunter is indeed a top 4 class, but when Savjz was at the ESL Legendary Series Finals last weekend, he brought Hunter as one of his 3 decks in his starting lineup, and I felt he actually got really punished for it, and he did very poorly with the Hunter, going combined 0-3, so I think he just doesn't want a repeat of those games, so instead of bringing Hunter, he's actually going to bring Warrior to this tournament.
Sort of a nod to more of the aggression, but gosh, it looks like it's going to be rough. As long as he can avoid Warrior, I think, going into Druid, he's going to be okay. But RDU's Hunter deck also is not a traditional Hunter deck. It's very mid-range oriented and has a lot of potential power versus Warrior decks. So I'm not entirely sure how that matchup's going to be. I think if Savjz was looking for a good matchup, this is probably one of them. I think that RDU's Hunter deck is going to struggle a little bit more versus Mech than it would if this is like a Face Hunter deck, for instance.
Yeah, Savjz gets a pretty good draw here. Double Mech Warpers, always what you want to see, but unfortunately there's nothing to combine this Mech Warper with. There's not a second mech. Imagine if something like a piloted Sky Golem, or sorry, a piloted Shredder, or even a Mechanical Yeti were on the field. This game could just swing right around.
Yeah, so just going to go ahead and attack and get the bad news that it is a freezing trap.
And what an odd mana for this for this Mech Warper to be 3 mana.
Yeah, after getting freezing trapped. It's very rare that I think that you see a 3 mana Mechanical Yeti. Like Mana Wraith from Piloted Shredder is going to be one of the only ones that ever happens. Oh, it's gone back up to 4 mana, so it's no longer a 3 mana Mech Warper. But this turn was actually looking like it was going to be really awkward for Savjz until he drew that Mechanical Yeti. So Piloted Shredder and that, I think, were his 2 best draws, along with Clockwork No, which also would have been an excellent draw, so he could develop his Tinkertown Technician.
He has weird hand right now with the 2 kill commands. Kill commands are usually used to just as the final finishing blow for the Hunter player, but I don't think RDU is going to get to that point anytime soon. He'll be looking to stem the aggression from Savjz, and you know what might be interesting? Let's say on the next turn, the piloted Shredder runs into the 4-4, which is now a 4-5. If he actually gets a beast from that, he can actually activate the kill command. But unfortunately, he's not going to get a clean kill. Armor plating does go on the 4-4.
Ragnarok's going to get drawn. No use there, and actually no way to activate this kill command. So armor plating being a pretty big deal in this matchup right now. And I actually liked that Savjz used the armor plating from the right side, like the fresh cog that was drawn, because it really kind of masks what this other cog is right now. RDU doesn't have a good read as to what it could be. We keep seeing Defiance Ringleader summoned off of these pilot shirts. I think it's a 3rd one in a row now.
Yeah, at least the 3rd one today, so definitely a trend here.
This dog's likely going to take out this Cog Master. He does also have options to use Eagle Horn Bow, and he has 2 dogs to clear out the Tinkertown Technician, so a couple different plays available.
Usually when you have a board like this with just a lot of weak minions, you are scared of the Goblin Blast Mage, but I don't think it's too much of a concern right now because your opponent is going into 6 mana, and he would need something like a mech plus the Blast Mage to activate it. RDU's deciding whether to clear the Tinkertown Technician instead.
I think I would tend to favor clearing Tinkertown here. This is probably one of the last turns you can actually use your life as a resource. And going forward, you want to have a pretty strict control over the board, considering that you have Ragnaros and 2 kill commands in your hand. Dr. Boom gets picked up for Savjz, so this is going to be likely some clear on what's going on. I think I'd like to see him. I think I'd like to see him clear one of these minions. But he's going to favor face pressure instead. He is at 30, so he doesn't have like a really big risk.
Yeah, I think that's kind of just a nod to the fact, a nod to his hand. He has Dr. Boom and he has a Fireball, so we're likely to see these Boom bots either clearing minions for him or going to face, which will lead him to be even closer to lethal range with the Fireball.
Yeah, what do you think of Rusty Horning here? Do you think there's any merit to Rusty Horning this? Oh, he actually is going to Rusty this Cog Master. I actually really like this a lot when he throws the armor plating on here too, because this is kind of it. With what he's seen so far, it's kind of forcing both these minions to attack into it. And now RDU actually has a really, really awkward decision in front of him. He's going to go with Savannah Highmane. He needs that development more than anything, but both of these minions going to have to run into this Cog Master. So Mech Warper going to stick to the board. He gets an extra trap out of it, and Dr. Boom, it just, I mean, this is the major turn right here. If Dr. Boom ends up going uncontested, you're going to see Savjz just absolutely
Yeah, what can even contest this Dr. Boom? You really don't want to throw something like a kill command into it. But unfortunately, RDU does not have the Hunter's Mark, which ways to contest this Dr. Boom.
I think he's going to have to just double kill command, or kill command it and run in his Savannah Hyman, or double kill command. Those are really his only two options for this. He cannot afford to eat 7 damage, almost half of his life total.
Yeah, at this point against Mech Mage, you're often having to think, do you just want to play the control game, or do you want to race? And when you're against an opponent that, as you said, he has 30 health right now, I think racing is not an option at all, even though your hand kind of dictates that you should be racing with the Ragnaros and the 2 kill commands. You know what? A different spare part would have been so great for RDU right now. A coolant would have been amazing, would have brought him 1 more turn and effectively gained him 7 life. If a coolant were drawn, RDU could have maybe considered trading right here. Yep. Also, something like a taunt might be more useful even.
Whirling Blades. It's pretty rare, I think, that Whirling Blade is actually your best one, but yeah, this situation definitely it would have been best. So I think he's kind of concluding he has to make some sort of trade scenario. So choosing to save onto his kill command to help alleviate board pressure in the coming turns. I think this is probably one of the better ways to do it. Again, he has to get like a very strict control over the board before anything else can happen. Gosh, if Savjz would have played Mirror Entity here, so bad for RDU. He's just going to favor face damage. King Crush gets drawn for RDU. You know, he actually, 1, 2, 3, 4. He actually does have a chance to win this game. If he plays Ragnaros, trades off one of these minions, and Ragnaros shoots face twice, and then now it's still not enough damage. Yeah, he's I was going to say Ragnaros shoots face twice. He moves forward from there. He actually still has enough damage to do it, but
I think so. The problem with King Crush is that you have a kill command anyway, and King Crush versus kill command, that's almost equivalent amounts of damage.
Yep. Yeah, no, this reversing switch actually might come into a good effect here. He can run into this Mech Warper and reversing switch it the taunt afterwards to make it a 2/4 taunt, which I think is probably what he should do. And you know what? After that, it's looking like he does have a pretty good control over the board. This King Crush actually might be super important.
It looks super important, but Savjz does have the Mirror Entity in hand, and if Mirror Entity comes on the field, like, you're looking at 2 of your biggest minions that you can play. So if Mirror Entity does come on the field and RDU draws blank, we could just see a hero power pass from RDU.
Oh my gosh. So I'm gonna go ahead and start picking up the buttons now. That's a perfect roll for him. Mad Scientist gets drawn. This is actually like one of the worst draws in Savjz deck right now, because if he plays this Mad Scientist and Mirror Entity, he's not actually getting any value from the Mad Scientist. So choosing to use Fireball here straight away. So there goes some of his reach. And wow, he's going to pick this off. And this Mirror Entity is a nightmare for RDU right now.
RDU, he needs to draw something like a Web Spinner, or, again, as we said, hero power pass. Yeah, Savjz doesn't even play the Mad Scientist. He doesn't want his opponent to basically kill the Mad Scientist and then effectively... Whoa, he's considering Crush here?
No, he can't consider Crush. You know what? Actually, he can't consider Crush. If he wants to just trade that off for the Mirror Entity and then drop Ragnaros next turn, I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Oh, wow.
I think that Haunted Creeper is a little bit better, but, you know, dropping the King Crush is not the worst thing in the world. Because if he drops the Haunted Creeper into this, it's going to really, really put a big hurt on the effect that Ragnaros is going to be able to have.
You know, if RDU really wants to go full yellow, he can actually drop the Ragnaros onto the field. Hope his Ragnaros hits the opposing side of the hits the Savjz's Ragnaros.
How often have you ever seen opposing King Crushes on the board? Don't think I've ever seen this happen before. King Crush is going to run straight into King Crusher. He's his own natural predator. Mad Scientist is going to get dropped. Savjz, you know, this Frostbolt, a pretty good draw right now. The hero powers kind of start adding up. And, I mean, he's got to get this Ragnaros in here now, right?
Yeah, I would have to think so. If he doesn't get it now, then he's probably not gonna have a chance next turn. And giving your opponent a King Crush and a Ragnaros is not the best, I would have to say.
Oh, look at that 9 power Ragnaros.
Oh man, is it gonna do 9 damage? No,
it only does 8. Oh, geez, that is the second best draw in RDU's deck right now. A Fireball would have been a little bit better, but this is effectively the same thing, and I do not see a single way for RDU to deal 20 points of damage with this board position. That's going to be game. Savjz is going to run out to a very quick 1-0 lead, despite the fact that this game went on for more than 10 turns. This game was very quick. They had such clean decisions at pretty much every step of the way, except for that one mirror entity turn.
Yeah. I liked how RDU ended this game with just testing for secrets. As we saw from his game against Lothar, he faced the counterspell, and even though I'm 99% sure that RDU doesn't think that Savjz is running a counterspell, it doesn't hurt to check it all, right?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think you should be testing for it. So 1-0 for Savjz. His mech mage is going to be
The worst matchups in the world.
Yeah, this mid-range hunter deck is going to be very strong versus other mid-range decks and versus control decks. Its weakness is going to be sort of targeted aggression in the early game. So stuff like mech mage, stuff like Zoo, all those are potentially going to be pretty bad matchups. But against this, I would expect if he draws any reasonable threats in the later stages of the game that he has a pretty significant advantage.
We saw RDU actually face off against Nyria earlier in this tournament, and even though Nyria disconnected from the game, RDU was still in a very favorable position when Nyria disconnected. So I would have to think RDU is still fairly confident against Savjz's warrior, where he has to think, okay, Savjz and Nyria are teammates, so they might be running a very similar warrior list.
Yeah, I would tend to think so. So not dropping the Armor Smith here, doesn't want to just get a juggle the Armor Smith and trade it away on the Knife Juggler here. So I think probably the better way to do it. I imagine this is going to be Coin and Dustbite.
Yeah. Even though it's kind of a...
Oh, you can see he's pained by drawing the Fiery War Axe. Like, where were you last turn?
Exactly. We can see that Savjz, or rather RDU, has had a fairly slow start, but I don't think RDU minds that slow start at all. He has the double high main, and he has a Houndmaster.
Oh my gosh.
Sludge Belcher next turn, and he has Dr. Boom.
Yep.
So he's gonna... He doesn't need early aggression, he just needs continual aggression.
Yeah, I think this game is going to be... I mean, Savjz definitely has some answers to start working against this stuff, but you're going to see an uphill battle for the entire game. I don't know if he's going to have the pressure to deal with everything that's going on. He's definitely drawing some extra cards here, but a second Acolyte of Pain is going to be no help. And he's down in Execute now, so he's got Shield Block, Shield Slam, which is going to give him, again, a little bit of extra leverage. But when you have to get through a Sludge Belcher first, and then fight through 2 Savannah Highmains and a Dr. Boom, I really, really see a tough time here for the rest of this game.
The one difference about this game, between this game and the game where Nyria played RDU, is that Savjz does have some answers to these big threats, though. He had the Execute, and he has, in addition, one more Shield Slam. The reason that Nyria versus RDU kind of flew out of hand for Nyria was that even though he had such a good hand in the opening match, or his opening hand was so great, he couldn't find an Execute to kill off the first Savannah High Main, and it just snowballed from there.
Yeah, the second Armor Smith picked up, but they're not picked up early. So these are likely to get some value, but not too much. Again, he's down to 14, and this is just so much pressure he's going to have to face. This is the last card he wants to see right now. Oh, geez, this is looking ugly.
Yeah, ugly. Oh. Well, Baron Geddon's a great draw, actually.
Yeah, I mean, that could potentially pick something else up, but Savjz is going to need to draw. He's going to need to draw something else to get out of this game. Like a second Execute is probably what he's going to have to end up drawing at some point. Freezing Trap even comes in hand. So Dr. Boom, Savannah Highmain, everything available for RDU this turn, and you're just going to see pressure for the again, just face pressure for basically the rest of this game.
Yeah, what a difficult decision, right? Do you Dr. Boom or do you Savannah Highmain plus Abusive Sergeant? Both are just excellent draws, and now this slime is becoming the most relevant slime I've seen in a very long time.
He gets a Shield Slam, but I don't think it's going to end up being enough. So it's going to be Armor Smith attack, and I think he should be dropping Sludge Belcher after this. He's going to go with Acolyte Pain. He's digging for answers.
Yeah, he's at such a low health right now. It's just really sick. What answers does he drop? Big Game Hunter? Okay, that could be useful.
Shield Slam onto... Yeah, 4 armor. Oh! This is actually... This really could be a big turning point. RDU's got 6, 11, 12... He's got 13 points of damage. That would just leave Savjz at 4, but it's going to be Dr. Boom first. Now, Big Game Hunter and Sludge Belcher. I think he's going to have to take out this Armor... Oh my gosh, if he doesn't take out this Armor Smith, I was just about to say this could be one of the situations where it spells a lot of trouble for RDU.
Cruel Taskmaster is drawn. That's pretty relevant, I'd have to say.
Yeah, it's going to be relevant in the coming turns as well. If Savjz gets past this one, he's going to be really, really primed to take this game. So Sludge Belcher's going to come out, Big Game Hunter's going to come out, and Dr. Boom. And then some more armor is going to be picked up, as well as some extra cards. So these Boombot rolls are going to be paramount to this game.
Whoa. Armor Smith getting so much value. You know what? Armor Smith behind a Sludge Belcher is just so great. And even Whirlwind is drawn. Boombot to face, though. Not the best.
He doesn't have an option. He has to Big Game Hunter this right now. But what a great position for Savjz right now. Unleash the Hounds would have been a fantastic draw for RDU, but it's not in sight. So Kill Command's going to have to come out on this Sludge Belcher. And again, each point of damage that gets dealt to a minion, it's going to be one extra armor for Savjz. So Armor Smith being so annoying in this matchup right now. And does he finally kill it? You know, if he would have killed this Armor Smith last turn, I think he would have been in really good shape. Another Boombot goes to face. And when he's sitting behind a Sludge Belcher after this, I think he might be putting together some pieces again to continue this assault.
Still, though, Savjz still has...
We traded into the Big Game Hunter. That's really, really interesting.
Well, I think he just doesn't want the Sludge Belcher to be dealt with so easily. Savjz still does have the Shield Maiden, but I'm not sure if you can play it this turn. He needs something to somewhat deal with this board. He has the Whirlwind, though.
I think it's going to be Whirlwind and Shield Maiden. Or
Whirlwind, Axe, Shield Maiden. That's actually pretty good.
I think it's probably... He's looking at this Ragnaros. What does he actually die to if he plays this Ragnaros?
You've seen one Kill Command, so there's only one. I still kind of like the Shield Maiden a bit better because you don't mind if it gets freezing traps, and it's kind of a more stable thing on the board right now. Ragnaros, you can't control what it hits, but Shield Maiden, you can always direct it.
Unleash the Hounds is very late in this game, and he's definitely not going to be dropping freezing trap with a Shield Maiden on board, so just going to be hero power and 1 damage from the slime. Myaxna has a potential to do some extra work here, but Execute gets picked up. That's a perfect draw right now. But he really wants to get this Ragnaros online, and he's got to keep fending off this board pressure.
You really want to weave in hero powers at this point, but at the same time, you really want to put on more pressure. So Savjz is a player who really knows when to turn it on, when to turn the aggression on, versus when to hold it back and just play more defensively. And I think this might be a game where he can afford to play defensively because he's already seen one Kill Command, and that's pretty much half the burst from the Hunter. He's also seen pretty much every one of the big Hunter threats besides the Hunter's own Ragnaros.
Yeah, it's pretty much the last one available. I think he should be using this Axe here on the slime and start getting the aggression going with this Shield Maiden. I want to see Execute on this Myaxna to prevent it from getting too much value later on. Like if he sees a Houndmaster or something on that and he doesn't execute now, it's potentially so much value that's going to be picked up. Like I feel like this Execute needs to be thrown in this Myaxna right now. Your opponent's so low on cards. And again, your opposing Ragnaros is really the only threat left.
You're going to see the Axe go into slime. Execute is indeed going to go down, but Cruel Taskmaster is also going to get used. What that means is he won't be able to play Ragnaros now, so he's really going for the longer game.
Yep, there's the aggression just in time. I think this is the perfect spot to unleash it. Speaking of unleash, I think this is going to have to get used just to start getting a little bit added pressure on the board, but Hunter's Mark may encourage him to hold on for this unleash one more turn.
Hunter's Mark allows him something that can deal very easily with the Ragnaros that will come down. And RDU feels so bad right now because he can't actually play this freezing trap. Both the minions that are on the board, you don't really want freezing traps back into your opponent's hand.
Yep.
Hero power pass.
Yeah, it's just a dead card right now. Second Cruel Taskmaster gets drawn. That's a perfect draw right now for Savjz. How badly does he want to weave in hero powers right now? This is how badly he wants to weave in hero powers. So Ragnaros is going to hit this board, and a clock has been struck on RDU's forehead. He has a way to go ahead and break that. Oh, that 8 points of damage is dropping him down to 17. Web Spinner, that's one of the worst draws in his deck right now.
Yeah, and for what RDU has drawn in the beginning of the game, 2 high mains and 1 Dr. Boom, that's like such a great draw in the beginning of the game, but Savjz somehow was able to deal with it, and now RDU will be top decking all these small cards like the Web Spinner.
Yeah, I'm curious if he's going to actually end up Hunter's marking this Ragnaros. I'd be like really surprised if he doesn't. Okay, so he's actually gonna take out this Shield Maiden, and he's gonna initiate a race here. So he's probably gonna end up using freezing. No, he's not gonna use freezing trap yet. So, oh my gosh, and Sludge Belcher gets drawn, and that is all gonna put a nail in this coffin now for RDU.
That's exactly what Savjz needed. RDU did initiate that race, but now the race has been pretty much put to a halt because RDU has used that 100's mark, and he's going to need to draw his owl in order to get any more damage in. Still, if he draws the owl, then that means he won't be able to draw any more cards that can damage his opponent. So the game looks close to being locked up, even though Savjz is at effectively 8 life.
Yep. Could draw an owl off of this web spinner, but I don't think he needs something else going forward. So right now he needs to get an owl off of this web spinner, and I actually still don't think it's going to end up being enough. Gets a Misha from this, and this. I mean, I don't even know what this could be. It's a Snapjaw. Is going to be drawn, so just going to be another hero power, and it looks like Kill Command is. I don't even think that's going to end up being an option to close this game out at this point. That Brawl is not going to get used. So Savjz, I imagine, is going to be putting both of his minions into this Misha, axe into the face, and then hoping for this last Ragnaros shot to get the job done.
Yeah, if you put both into the Misha, both the slime or both the sludge and the cruel taskmaster, and just attack face, then you either kill the Snapjaw or kill your opponent. If you kill the Snapjaw, then you're still very safe because a kill command draw will still not be lethal. And if you kill your opponent, then that's probably even better.
Yep, I think it's just going to drive it home. Even with the Oasis Snapjaw dying, I don't see a draw on RDU's decks that's going to get him out of this. That could help for another turn.
Even the freezing trap's still not going to go down.
You know,
so he's just playing all the minions that basically you can't get freezing trap. You know what? Yeah, I think what you were going to say is if freezing trap went down on the previous turn, then Savjz would have had a much more difficult time dealing with the Misha, right?
Yeah, that as well. But if this Ragnaros hits Pilot Shredder and a Doomsayer gets summoned, that's a way for RDU to potentially climb back into this game. This Ragnaros shot is so important. Oh my gosh! Oh! No. I was like, this is going to be it. He draws the other freezing trap. A great start for RDU, but a terrible end game. And this game is, I mean, this is done like dinner. I don't see him winning this one. This Shield Maiden's going to go back to hand, get 8 more or 5 more armor for Savjz. And there's just nothing going. I mean, he's way too far out of reach right now.
Yeah, just a very slow and painful death for RDU. Ragnaros pretty much taunting him at this point.
Is it taunting him or is it taunting Savjz? Oh! Wait a minute!
Oh man.
Is this happening? Is this happening right now?
Oh.
It's not happening this one, so RDU's gonna scoop this one up. That was a you know, for the way that this game had panned out, this was some like scary endgame for Savjz to still go through. These Ragnaros shots were just not coming the way that he wanted them to happen. So it was popular because it dealt with mid-range Hunter at the time, the most popular deck on the ladder. And one of the best cards about Miracle Rogue against Hunter is that Sap, because the Sap just dealt with Savannah High Mains so well, and the Savannah High Mains was pretty much the card in Hunter that kind of put its matchups over the top against classes like Druid and Warrior. We see a backstab coming down turn 1, pretty much exactly what you want to see against the Knife Juggler. Yeah, so the Haunted Creeper is a bit annoying, but I don't think he's really too worried about it. Preparation's not the greatest draw in the world, and Deadly Poison's not going to get any work done because it doesn't have a Fan of Knives available just yet. So I think this is very likely a turn where he's going to poke with Dagger and pass. I'm curious if he's going to poke the Haunted Creeper, though. Yeah, I actually like this to kind of set up future turns. Like, if you draw a Fan of Knives in coming turns, it makes a lot more sense to poke this right away.
We're going to see an Eagle Horde Bow coming down. Just a very clean trade against Rogue 3/3s. I have a question. Do you actually keep this weapon against Rogue because they just run so many 3/3s?
I think with mid-range you definitely do. And with aggro, the reason I think you keep it isn't because of the 3/3s. I think you just keep it for 6 damage to the face. But
fair enough.
It's yes and no. Like, you do keep Eagle Horn Bow, I think, in these matchups, but for different reasons depending on which strategy you're actually utilizing.
Yeah, we can see another reason why Savjz poked that Haunted Creeper to death. Now he has to play quote-unquote weaker Violet Shredder instead of a Houndmaster on the Haunted Creeper, which would have been just terrible for him.
Yeah. Lotheb is okay this turn, but I think what he really wants to use Lotheb for is going into a turn where he really needs to keep his opponent from kill commanding a minion, so he can try to stabilize the board position. So I think tending to favor Azure Drake here is a little bit better. Also, the times he draws like Backstab off of this Azure Drake, and it's sort of like an ace in the hole mechanism, and it ends up being a lot better for him.
I also think that you might want to save Lotheb for a turn after this, just because you want to be able to contest the Savannah High Mains that are coming down on turn 6. Instead.
Oh, jeez.
Oh.
He chooses not to poke first, and it ends up costing him one of the few taunt minions popping out of Piloted Shredder.
Thankfully, this bear is not actually a beast; it's a mech, though.
It's a mech beast.
It's a little counterintuitive.
Well, it's a mechanical bear. So, are you going to choose to favor face damage here with the freezing trap on the board? Oh, wait a minute. Maybe I spoke too soon. I think I would like to see him really save this bow in this spot. I don't really think that Azure Drake is putting too much pressure on you. I think if Savjz had Fan of Knives, he probably would have used it already.
Well, if he had Fan of Knives, he might not have had a second preparation to Fan of Knives the previous turn, I guess.
So it's going to be Violet Teacher and Deadly Poison. So Violet Teacher is going to be a little bit checked by Unleash the Hounds, but the 3/5 body is still going to be looming, so he needs to be careful to control the size of his board to minimize that impact. And this is a turn where he... Oh, geez, that Hunter's Mark is an extremely good draw right now.
I don't even think you use it now, because there is a freezing trap on field. So whenever you want to use, like, basically next turn, you probably expect your opponent to summon a lot of 1/1s.
Oh, did he have freezing trap down?
Yeah, there's freezing trap down right now. So basically, you can just unleash the Hounds next turn, Hunter's Mark, and kill off pretty much his entire board.
Yeah, I didn't realize he had freezing trap down. That's my mistake. But like you said, Lotheb is going to try to contest the Savannah Highmane, but I think the Law of Highmane is coming into effect this turn.
The infamous Amaz Law of Highmane, where if you strike your opponent's face once with the Highmane, you pretty much win the game.
I'm curious how he moves forward with this. This is just a tough spot to be in. He's looking at all of his options, how he clears his board, and I don't see it.
Yeah,
he can use oil and then SI7 agent to start clearing stuff out. He is going to take a lot of damage from here. I'm curious if this counts as an attack in the Law of Highmane.
You have to ask Amaz himself for that, I feel.
Yeah, so he's not going to choose to attack here. I think when he's already seen a bow that he can afford to wait on proccing this freezing trap. And the other thing too is he might actually want to try to get the anti-Keelbot to proc this freezing trap.
Yeah, I think this is pretty much an easy unleash turn. You can even use the Houndmaster. You can use the Hunter's Mark, and you pretty much clear the board while setting up even more pressure for your opponent.
Yep. So that's going to be his line of play. Violet Teacher's going to fall. Violet Princess is going to fall. And Houndmaster is going to leave him with a 4/1 beast. And Savjz has nothing on board right now going for... Oh my gosh, he's just going to go face instead. I actually really like the face pressure here because it's dealing such a significant portion of Savjz's life total. So anti-Keelbot's going to get cleared. It's not going to be able to proc Freezing Trap. And he needs to just drop this Blood Mage, again, to try to have a way to proc Freezing Trap and just to have something else extra on the board that may tempt RDU into attacking.
Do you actually use the second Unleash the Hounds here? I don't think you're going to get any more value out of Unleash the Hounds otherwise.
I think you do go for it. Yeah, I don't see a reason not to.
And actually, I think...
Oh, it's just lethal, yeah. So there's definitely no reason not to. RDU is finally going to put a point on the board, and I think he wins a matchup that he, again, is kind of alleviated to win, because I would typically say that this matchup is going to go in favor of Savjz when he finds just sort of the pressure that's necessary to get everything done. RDU just kind of had all the right answers through the mid game and really getting... So, you know, he does have a Harrison Jones in this deck, though, so maybe it's really not that bad. Because one of the spots I think you're going to find Savjz in the most is an advantage in that one. But I think versus Mage and versus Druid, that this Rogue deck has a really good chance.
Mm-hmm. We do see a key card, which is the Spectral Knight in RDU's hand, though. Spectral Knight is, for RDU, it's just a nod to the amount of rogues that he expected to face. And even though Spectral Knight is so good, it's so good that he actually decided to keep it for going potential draws, potential draws into walled growth even.
Yeah, I like keeping Spectral Knight in this matchup. This is one of those cards that's dedicated for this matchup. It's sort of akin to keeping Lotheb against this style of a deck. You just want a very powerful 5-drop that opposes your opponent. And Spectral Knight is definitely one of them. Outside, short of a big Blade Flurry or a large board presence, there's not really that many ways to deal with it. So no Wild Growth, no Innervate. He does have Coin, but he doesn't have. He's not gonna have a drop on turn 3. It looks like, unless he draws a 3-drop. So Earthen Ring Farseer gonna get checked by this Wrath most likely. He does draw another Piloted Shredder though, so I think there is an argument for playing Piloted Shredder here. But saving his coin to make sure that he can either get a turn 4 Spectral Knight or a turn 7 Ragnaros in the future is also very important. So not surprised to see him hang on to it.
Savjz has a decision. Does he want to actually keep the Blood Mage Thanos? And no, he just uses it to cycle.
Yeah, this is a good turn to use it because it's going to threaten your opponent's board position. Like they're going to be worried about the spell power. But at the same time, if they choose to use hero power, they didn't do anything through turns 1 through 3. So if he doesn't clear this Blood Mage, there's the threat of the spell power. And Spectral Knight is sort of the perfect response to this board position because Blood Mage is really not going to get any work done in a position like this.
Yeah, one other thing that the Blood Mage does is it enables the Tinker's Sharpsword Oil. So if Savjz goes for that play, he can actually clear the Spectral Knight really easily.
Yep,
this is probably the easiest I've ever seen a rogue clear a Spectral Knight.
Yeah, not only that, but he has a 4/1 Blood Mage on the board, and this needs to be dealt with at this point. RDU doesn't have another card that's just a direct threat to the board position going on. Innervate is a fantastic draw right now. Wow, so that belongs in a museum. This is exactly the kind of reason why Harrison Jones is in a deck like this. And now Hero Power is going to clear out this Blood Mage. So Savjz going to go up to 6 cards on his turn, so not the worst position for him. But RDU definitely has a little bit of favor of board presence right now.
We can definitely see the fine tweaks that RDU has made to his Druid deck really come into play. Spectral Knight.
Draw.
Whoa. Okay, so this is... RDU doesn't have swipe, so again... These Druid versus Rogue games, they just keep swinging back and forth, back and forth. There's just so many swing cards in this matchup. Harrison Jones and Violet Teacher with preparation, or just even with the Eviscerate. Now Savjz is now back in the lead again.
Yeah, this feels like a really easy Sylvanas turn, and part of the reason I think it's so good for him here is because he doesn't have to Sap is definitely a card he doesn't want to see, but there wasn't like a ton of pressure going out. So if Savjz didn't have something like Azure Drake to couple with this Sap, it would have been a lot worse for him. But now Swipe doesn't even look like a good draw, and he's way behind on board at this point, and he's going to be suffering a lot of damage. Not only that, but Savjz also has Prep Sprint. He has Tinker Sharpsword Oil, and he has a Backstab. He's going to be able to push through almost anything, and I think RDU is going to feel pressured to try to use Swipe again here, but I think he needs to just try to get something on the board and hope his opponent attacks into it.
RDU, he's at a very big tempo loss. There's a Violet Teacher on the field and an Azure Drake on the field and 2 1/1 tokens. So that's something like about 9 mana worth of stuff on the field that he has to deal with. And Druid is not a class that can just deal with it in one swipe. Even though he does have one swipe right now, he's just basically needs something like Innervate and very effective trades with Innervate. And RDU has already used one Innervate, so it's very unlikely for him to draw exactly the cards that he needs.
Yeah, it feels... I mean, this is such a bad position to be in. I think you just have to hope Sylvanas has taunt. Like, hope that your opponent just feels like Sylvanas is a bigger threat than it actually is. And almost certainly with this hand context, Savjz is not going to be falling for that.
We have seen RDU, though, be more defensive in his plays, specifically against Lothar and the Hunter versus Druid game, where he went for a board clear instead of going for face. So we might see RDU prefer the Druid of the Claw in this scenario, or even prefer like board clearing with the swipe.
Yeah, he's going to go with the swipe here, so trying to seize back some initiative. He's going to be really upset to see Sprint on the other side of the board, though.
Yeah. The one way that RDU could have gotten back to the game was if Savjz had run out of steam, but he's certainly not going to run out of steam right now. I'm really looking forward to seeing RDU's face when he sees the sprint, and it's not going to be pretty.
Oh, gosh. Looking forward to seeing the torch in it. So no reaction really whatsoever to it. I'm not sure if Violet Teacher or Van Cleef is actually better here. Probably Violet Teacher just because it's stickier. And it's 4 more damage, and RDU is going to need a miracle to climb out of this one.
Second swipe.
Yeah, but that's not even going to clear the board, really.
And man, it's also not going to do anything to the Violet Teacher. Ragnaros is potential. He already seen one sap, so to the face.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You know, that actually could be a little bit of a bless. Oh no, wait, he's got Blade Flare. Never mind. So 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. It looks like 15 damage to me. I was going to say it could be a little bit of a blessing to leave the Violet Teacher around, so that way the Sharp Sword Oil might hit one of the 1/1 tokens instead of hitting an active minion. But with Blade Flurry in hand, it's just not going to matter. He's got more than enough damage to finish this game. And even just the SI7 agent's going to be enough. So Savjz going to take a 3-1 lead now. And he's got one deck left to win his last game with, and it is Druid. He's got 3 chances to win with Druid versus RDU's lineup. How on earth is he going to climb out of this one? Because from the looks of this Druid deck also...
Turns, can Frostbolt or Fireball be drawn?
Yeah, we've seen it happen a lot already this tournament. Curious if he's going to keep the Shade next Rhombus. RDU chose to keep 2 cards in his hand. And once again, he has a Mech Warper Spider Tank start, so if Mech Warper doesn't get checked on turn 1, could be tough stuff. Gonna keep the Shade next Rhombus and draws Swipe and 2 Druid of the Claws, which I think is not what he really wanted to see right now. So pretty easy open for RDU. He plays a Mech Warper. If he gets checked, he's Mad Scientist. If not, he's got Spider Tank to go into it.
Yeah. Looking at Savjz's hand, nothing can actually check this Mech Warper. Or is he considering a Mad Scientist as well?
Wow, he's gonna go with Mad Scientist. Well, hang on. Snow Sugar up. I think, yep, Mech Warper, come on.
Yep. Pick one of them.
Yep.
You've already committed to the coin.
he just pings and passes. Dang it! Why did I do that?
Ultimate Dennis.
So he just throws out a well played from this Mech Warper. He has no way to check it and no real action until about turn 4. So RDU, I think, is really happy to see what just came about. And now a potential for... this is potentially Cogmaster and Snow Chugger. I'd actually think I'd like to see both of those instead. Now it's going to go Spider Tank.
Yeah, I guess the Spider Tank... I guess there's more things that that can contest the Snow Chugger plus the Cogmaster. Yeah, with this curve, he doesn't really fall vulnerable to Keeper of the Grove at all.
Yeah, that's definitely true. So no Innervate Keeper of the Grove. Yeah, that's a good point. If Innervate Keeper of the Grove is really one of the only things that's going to function well against him, why wouldn't you play it this way? So Violet Shredder gets drawn, so a little bit of action now, but that Annoyatron is very likely to throw a wrench in things.
That being said, you do have the Swipe in hand, and I feel like that's going to be the key card if you are looking to come back in this game. Do you just swipe right here, or are you looking to be more greedy with your plays?
You know, he could just go for like the 63-1 and ram his Shade into Violet Shredder and hope for the best.
Yeah, full yellow.
Get that Doomsayer out. Bam!
How salty would RDU be?
That would be so great. One time I want to see it. I haven't seen it in competitive play yet.
I believe I've seen it before in competitive play. I'm not sure in what tournament, but it didn't actually end up mattering too much.
It would definitely matter a lot here, I'll tell you that. But I think he has a better than a 63-1 chance to win this game, so I don't suspect he's going to be doing that.
Not only does Savjz have to deal with the current board, he also has to eventually deal with the Mad Scientist.
Yep, so I'm going to go ahead and swipe this Piloted Shredder. See what comes out here. Nerubian Web Lord is actually not that bad for Savjz right now, because it's going to shut off Goblin Blast Mage this turn, so Battle Cry is going to cost 2 more. And all these Druid cards, these are not Battle Cries, these are Choose One effects.
Yeah, when the card first came out, the Nerubian Web Lord, a lot of players thought, oh, this checks Druid so well because I can deny the Keepers of the Grove, the Druids of the Claw, because they have Battle Cries, right? But no, Druid cards have Choose One, so not exactly Battle Cries. And Nerubian Weblord is not a card that we see today in competitive play.
Yeah, so tons of threats coming down now for RDU, and Annoyatron is going to make sure nothing is attacking his minions. Just pure pressure. These minions don't look like they're that threat. You know, something like Starfall would actually be really great here. These minions, they're not a lot of threats, like in terms of just size, but you know, never underestimate the overwhelming power of overwhelming stupidity and overwhelming numbers, which is basically the theme of all these mechs and these Cogmasters.
Oh wow, another perfect curve for RDU.
So I suspect both these Cogmasters are going to be biting the dust this turn.
Do you go the life coach route though, and just ping your opponent and save your mad scientist? I feel like you do want to get that mad scientist out as fast as possible.
I think mad scientist here is just a better option because it's going to overall deal more damage as the game progresses. Not only that, but you want to try to thin out the mirror entity from your deck as quickly as you possibly can.
All right, so everything's out on the board for RDU right now, and Savjz might be regretting his swipe in the previous turns. He needs something. He needs some AOE, something like a second swipe, or possibly a mind control tech. Like, but even if mind control tech came down on the field right now, got the best minion, the mechanical Yeti, I don't think that would have done much. Wait, is that not quite?
Wait. 4, 10, 11, 12, 13, 4. Are you just miss lethal? That's awkward. Was
it lethal? Was it
Yeah, you had 2 from Mad Scientist, 2 from Nerubian Weblord, and
oh yeah,
the the Annoyatron, 4 from Mechanical Yeti, 6 from Fireball, and 1 from Ping. He just missed lethal, just straight up.
I'm not sure if he'll get punished for it now, but
it's pretty difficult for him to get punished right here because it's like, so Annoyatron and the Nerubian Weblord are going to get checked here. But even if he chooses to innervate hero power, he's only at 11, and there's still 11 points of damage, so it's going to be inconsequential this game. But that is definitely not the kind of mistake you want to be making.
All right, everything. Is he not? Oh, so if he actually clears this Weblord, then he activates Dr. Boom. And he might be thinking that if Dr. Boom is the last card in his hand, then he might want to deny it, but I don't think you can play around that.
I think he's going to be really surprised to see Fireball. So that's going to be game over to RDU. So second point on the board now, 3-2 is the lead for Savjz, but RDU's certainly got to be happy about that win. And 2 more matches to go, but Savjz has 2 more more often than not anyway. And this is going to be another tough one for him. Innervate's going to help out a lot. And more importantly, as you've stressed all tournament long, the most important part of this matchup is that he has denied the coin from the Rogue player.
Now, you say that Rogue would tend to be favored in this matchup, but in this tournament, actually, we've seen Druid again and again take out the Rogue fairly consistently. Savjz actually starts off with double Innervate. How good is that?
Very good, and RDU's hand is not very good. 2 preparations and 2 SI7 agents. But again, sort of the theme from Rogue is that their opening hands are never really that strong. It's when you add the 5th card and you add the 6th card that you really see the deck start to come together. So 2 preparations is a little bit scary, and there's one of those perfect cards that he wants to pick up. This is going to be potentially a turn 4 sprint, and then again, the more cards you add to these Rogue hands, the scarier they get. So with this kind of draw, though, I think Savjz is going to feel really comfortable. If he doesn't innervate out this Druid of the Claw here, there's 2 major reasons why. The first one is he doesn't want to be vulnerable to backstab and eviscerate very early on, and the second one is he might be looking to accelerate more towards Ancient of Lore on turn 4 and then curving into the rest of his draw.
I think another reason is he doesn't want to be vulnerable to sap as well, because usually when you sap, it's a card disadvantage, but in this scenario, if Savjz innervates out a Druid of the Claw, then sap is not a card disadvantage at all. It's basically trading 1 for 1.
Yep. I'm curious if he ever feels like he wants to unveil the Shade this turn. So going to go ahead and innervate out this Druid of the Claw. I actually like that he's doing it on this turn, because this way, if he draws a 4-drop or a 5-drop next turn, he's able to play it. This also gets around the sap turn that you were just talking about. If this Druid of the Claw gets sapped, he can just coin it out again next turn.
Sprint goes off. Again, a card advantage coming from RDU, but I don't think he minds that much, especially because there is a second preparation in his hand. He's actually going to use it now to sap. Good decision, I would say.
Yeah, I'm actually a little bit surprised by that, because again, he's just going to see coin and Druid of the Claw again next turn. So it's disrupting his opponent's curve a little bit, but now he has 2 draws to find still a good curve. I mean, maybe he's just going to fall too far behind if he chooses not to do anything. So now RDU has another chance to save the coin if he wants to. He could just use Wrath and Hero Power here, but I think I'd like to see him develop.
Yeah, the issue with coin Druid of the Claw, though, is that if he chooses to go that route, then he'll be hurting for a turn 5 play. He might just have to Wrath on the next turn then.
Yep. Still gonna keep his Shade hidden. Goblin Auto Barber gets drawn. You know, Goblin Auto Barber, the more I see this card in this deck, it makes a lot of sense, because if you're playing this deck, you're kind of looking to beat Mech Mage with it anyway, and this is sort of just like one more thing to add on top of it that really is a great counter to Mirror Entity. If you play Auto Barber with a dagger up, you proc your opponent's Mirror Entity, and you can take out the 3/2 with your dagger.
Yeah, it's a really good point. A Goblin Auto Barber, it doesn't get any really great trades this turn, so we're just going to see a standard Lotheb. And unfortunately for Savjz, it's the exact card that he didn't want to see. He can't even use Wrath this turn.
Yep. I suspect we're going to see some Shade unveiled this turn. He's really got to get something rolling. I think if your opponent has a way to clear this board after this, you're okay with that because you'll go into Sylvanas, into Ancient Allure, and have ways to fight back against the board.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, even though Savjz got really two strong innervate plays, because he chose to innervate a lot of stuff out early, a lot of the cards in his hand right now are just not playable because there's such high mana cost. And it's just one of the problems that I was kind of alluding to with drawing those two innervates early.
Yeah, I like leaving the Shade at 1. This is going to force your opponent to have a way to deal a point of damage past the taunt minion. So if no Fan of Knives is this turn, he's going to have something like SI7 Agent, something like maybe even use a Blade Flurry at a board position like this. But RDU has just got the perfect combination here.
Yeah, this is exactly what he could have hoped for. Deadly Poison, SI going to come down, and now he even has a choice between the Auto Barber and the Blood Mage. Yeah, sorry.
Actually, I think I would have liked to see Blood Mage here just to try to throw off curve a little bit. So he's going to end up getting kind of the turn he wants anyway, which is no development from his opponent. But say like your opponent had something like a second Druid of the Claw, or like a Sylvanas in their hand, or even something like a Spectralite. With that Blood Mage on the board, they may feel like they're inclined to try to take out that minion beforehand.
I think he's looking at his hand right now, and he just wants to combo something with the backstab. So just another reason to keep the Blast Mage or the Blood Mage in his hand right now.
Second Sprint continues to load RDU's hand even further, and Savjz finally gets what looks like maybe his first break so far. But that's a big dagger he's facing down, so this is going to be checked really easily.
And I think at this position in the board is exactly what you don't want as Druid.
Yeah.
When your rogue opponent just has so many cards in his hand, and generally he's going to be way more flexible than you, the Druid player.
Yeah, but you just use Swipe too, so this Violet Teacher is going to go unchecked, and this turn, looking a little bit rough. I think he's happy that his sap's already gone, so the Sylvanas is going to stick to the board more often. But again, RDU just has so many cards that he's going to be able to fight through this so easily.
Yeah, we saw in the last game, or in the 2 games ago, where Savjz was the rogue player, a similar situation happened where Savjz, he had a similar board, but he just ignored his opponent's Sylvanas and went straight for face.
Wow, Sap gets drawn, and that was a perfect draw for RDU. You can even see it in his face. He's like, yeah, I drew that Sap. Get out of here, Sylvanas. Nobody likes you.
Yeah, Sylvanas is always sapped, right? And yeah, this is actually the exact same situation. We have an Azure Drake, a Violet Teacher, and 2 Violet Teacher tokens on the board.
He's even going to choose to use his dagger and dagger up again just to start to get these poisons rolling as well. I think this is pretty smart. He just needs, he has such an advantage, he just needs to press that.
Yeah, still no second swipe here.
Yeah, I think Savjz is probably going to feel like he needs to just drop this Sylvanas again. But gosh, it's looking ugly. At this point, he's worried about just the amount of burst that he's going to face from his opponent, because it's not even really so much burst, but he's facing down 9 points of damage on the board, which is almost 50% of his life total. If you count the dagger, it's 10 points of damage. It's even closer to the 50% mark. Just everything feels so bad for him right now because he fell behind early, despite the fact that he had 2 innervates, and the Sylvanas end up getting checked with Sap, and it's just put him so far behind now.
Yeah, the problem with Sylvanas is that it doesn't really affect the board this turn too much, and just looking into your next turn, it doesn't really affect the board that much on your next turn because it's going to be really hard to activate the Sylvanas no matter what. And you have to feel like against this board, you're probably going to die in between 2 or 3 turns, so it's still just a terrible position no matter which way you look at it.
Fan of Knives gets drawn. I'm not sure if that's going to actually get used this turn. I don't actually think he wants to put a point of damage on Sylvanas right now.
Yeah, definitely not. You don't really want to activate Sylvanas at all. 2 saps have been used, so you know if you try to play out the longer game, Sylvanas is going to get some kind of value. The other option is just to try to summon so many Violet Teacher tokens that Sylvanas just gets one of those, and it's kind of like the Paladin way of doing things. Yeah. Muster for battle when your opponent has Sylvanas, trade into the Sylvanas, and most likely, more likely than not, he'll get a Violet, or he'll get a Muster for battle token.
I'm not seeing it matter too much because at the end of the day, there's just too much damage coming from RDU's side of the board. So just Azure Drake here. A backstab on the zombie child is going to put him at just... Oh, he's actually going to go for a clear on the Sylvanas right now. So he is going to take the make a bunch of 1/1 minions path. And hope that it works out. Get in his damage now with his 2 minions. Make sure he gets that extra little bit. So 40% chance to take something relevant here. And ends up getting a 1/1 token. He does get the 1/1 token that hasn't attacked yet, though. So I think he's pretty happy about that. Tinker's Sharpsword Oil going to come down. I imagine this is going to be... Oh my gosh. And he gets the perfect roll on the Sharpsword Oil. Again, I think it's pretty inconsequential just because he had so much damage in his hand. But RDU is going to take a 3rd game now. And we're going to be heading into Game 7 for this match. These players have 1 deck left each.
Wow. It's really come down to this. I did not think that Druid could lose 3 games in a row. But now that we're down to a Druid versus Druid
with 2 Innervates in Savjz's opening hand and he's on the coin, this could be a big blowout with something like Cenarius. He's going to go with this turn 1 Shade here. This is also one of those cards that's equally threatening in this matchup. The larger Shades grow, the more important they are. RDU gets Shade on turn 3 here with a Piloted Shredder on turn 2 drawing his Innervate. I don't think he should be too upset with this, though. I feel like Innervating out Piloted Shredder is pretty equally threatening.
Yeah, I think he's just looking at what Savjz got and comparing it to what he got, and he's kind of a bit unhappy about that. But yeah, as you said, I think this is fine. Unless something amazing comes out of the Pilot Shredder, I think Savjz is going to be pretty good.
Seeing lots of 2/2s in the Shredder lately. Can't really
another Defias Ringleader.
It's kind of like Defias Ringleader. So going to be coin Piloted Shredder, I imagine. Just keep the pressure coming. And these players' hands are dwindling really fast. They're using their utility early, and rightfully so. This Piloted Shredder summon is going to be so important right now, too.
Yeah, this could swing the game around entirely. If it gets a Doomsayer, if it gets Millhouse Mana Storm, just opposite ends of the spectrum.
Yep. Pretty much anything of more value right now. Blood Raptor is going to be okay. It's a 1-for-1 trade. So I'd say a minor advantage over to RD right now simply because he has 5 drops.
Then again, Savjz could draw into so many things that could curve out so well.
Yep.
That's one of them.
Yeah, but I think he's going to turn this Innervate into a coin right here. He just needs to get something rolling.
And
not going to be surprised to see this in either mode, honestly. I think he's going to go for Taunt just simply because the damage has been dwindling so much, and he's going to choose to Unveil his Shade right here. And I actually really like this because if his opponent plays something like Sludge Belcher or a Druid of the Claw, he's going to have to Unveil the Shade anyway. And so if he does this and it forces his opponent to disrupt it with Keeper of the Grove, he's got a direct threat on it with the Druid of the Claw. So I actually really like pulling out the Shade here.
I also like the taunt because if your opponent plays the Druid of the Claw anyway, then it doesn't get threatened as much. Plus, you know your opponent doesn't play Black Knight, right? So you're not. Well, you can kind of suspect he doesn't play it just because no one besides Amaz is playing Black Knight.
Yeah, we just haven't seen it all tournament long from either of these players. Second swipe gets picked up, and that may be just the kind of thing that RDU is looking for to start getting this game back in his favor. So gonna run in his Shade here, and this swipe I imagine is going to be hitting this other Shade next round. Just gonna pull 7 points of damage off the board. So Savjz's actually the one a little bit in the driver's seat now. He's got a minion on board. He's got Wrath for the Shade next Rammus. And if he can draw any threats, he's going to find himself in great shape. So something like Piloted Shredder would be one of his best draws right now. Azure Drake's not going to be able to come down. He has to check the Shade.
Let's see what's drawn. Wild Growth.
Wild Growth is not bad.
Yeah, he gets closer to his Cenarius turn, which is really what he wants to activate.
Yep. Even though that's probably one of the worst draws in his deck right now, it actually is not too terrible right now.
That being said, actually this turn, RDU can't even get too much of a board advantage. His I guess best play is just a Harrison Jones, which trades 1-for-1 with his opponent's Harrison.
I think Piloted Shredder is going to be better just because you want to fight for board presence. But the reason he's not using Piloted Shredder here is because he wants to have access to Piloted Shredder and swipe next turn.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's very likely to be the play since Azure Drake is most likely going to be coming down for Savjz.
Oh, swipe gets drawn. It's not going to be able to be... You know, he might actually swipe this turn instead of using Azure Drake. So he's going to go... Nope, he's going to go with Azure Drake instead. So I imagine 5 points of damage is going to come crashing across. Yeah, he's initiated the race at this point. And with Cenarius in his hand, it makes a lot of sense. Both these players are down to very few cards. And since RDU doesn't have initiative, he's going to be the one forced to be making defensive plays.
I think Savjz is also very comfortable with his position right now, being 1 mana ahead of his opponent, and also having the ability with the Ancient of Lore to refill his hand.
So RDU at this point, he's definitely worried about Force Nature Savage. So I suspect he's going to be trading this turn.
Oh, this feels so bad. RDU, in comparison with Savjz, his hand is just completely barren. The Innervate, it was probably one of the worst draws he could have gotten.
Yeah, that's definitely one of the worst draws in the deck right now, too. There's not too many draws that really would have affected this turn, though, because he's just, again, he feels like he's pressured by Force Nature Savage just because of the nature of Savjz's play here. So trades are just, I feel like they just have to be done.
Savjz is going to be so happy. Cenarius coming down perfectly on curve. With RDU only having 2 cards in his hand. Normally when something like a big creature like Ragnaros or Dr. Boom comes down, there's kind of like a counterplay from your opponent. But as the Druid player, it's so hard to deal with the 5/8 body of Cenarius at all.
That Wrath is not a bad draw, though. He is going to have a way to take out the Cenarius this turn, but I think he's going to have to find some gas, too. So likely going to be a card draw. He's going to be put in Cenarius. He's going to... Ooh, Dr. Boom. So he can use Hero Power now to take this out. But what he should be doing is... Yeah, I think he should just be foregoing the ability to play around combo at this point. If you choose to play around combo, you're going to be behind the entire game. Mind Control Tech is drawn right on curve. And it seals Dr. Boom. A huge take for Savjz, and he has all but sealed this game up right now. Piloted Shredder would be one of the worst. Wouldn't even be that bad right now because he has Cenarius and the swipe to check against that.
Yeah, kind of a delayed reaction from RDU, but we can definitely see the reaction on his face, and I think he knows this game is pretty much a closed and shut case right now.
Swipe is going to clear this board. Hero Power is going to keep him out of range of anything. There is just too many threats on board. Even if RDU draws combo, he's going to be forced to clear the board, and Savjz is going to have 2 Ancient of Lores to refuel after that. This game, he even draws combo, and his Innervate is the last card in his hand, though. He can clear this board, but he takes 5 damage in the process and has nothing left. And I think he understands it. He's going to scoop it up, and Savjz is going to take 3rd place, and RDU is going to drop to 4th. So no first